Hey everyone, welcome to Get Baked. This is our new weekly show that we host with Nichelle Stevens of Cupcakes Take the Cake. I am Babette Pepai. I'm the founder of Bakespace.com, and we tried today to do Meerkat. If you guys don't know what that app is, it's a live streaming app that happens on your phone, and I tried to launch that darn app like 15 times, and it did not work. So if anyone is tuning in who had originally seen our post on Meerkat. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I tried. I will figure it out. Maybe I'll reinstall the app, but our first thing kind of failed. So anyways, I'm really happy you're here today. Get Baked is a new show that we do. We host every Sunday. And we are going to feature the coolest, most interesting bakers that we know. And we're going to pick a different topic every single week. So this week, it's on pies. Next week we have gluten-free, so if you're interested in gluten-free, check out our show next week. And I have this pie started for this evening. I want to introduce my co-host, Nichelle Stevens. Nichelle, do you want to tell the folks a little bit about you and tell them where they can find you on the web?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nichelle Stevens. I am the co-founder of Cupcakes Take the Cake. You can find Cupcakes Take the Cake on Twitter at Cupcake Blog, Cupcakes Take the Cake on Instagram. We're cupcakestakethecake.tumblr.com and cupcakestakethecake.blogspot.com.
So
And
basically everywhere.
everywhere. Not on Meerkat yet.
Oh,
I would
oh.
say. I would blame it on South by Southwest. I'm sure a lot of people are streaming there, so that's probably the reason why you're having problems today.
Ridiculous. Go ahead. I want to also to introduce our host today. Now I'm going to read this list because I want to make sure I say everyone's name right. But most of these people I know. We've had them speak at Tech Lunch, and they are our buddies, and we're really excited about seeing them today. Kate Lebo, this is a new friend, author, cookbook author, and also Pie School founder. What is Pie School?
Pie School is my roaming pastry academy. Usually shows up at the Pike Place Market in Seattle, but I've taken it all over the United States because it is wherever I am. And it's just a class on how to make great homemade pie with your hands.
I have a copy of her book in my hand.
Oh, hey. Thank you. Awesome.
I love that. Yeah, we'll have to rummage through that book too during the show. I want to make sure. We also have Jennifer Perillo, who is a cookbook author and also food blogger. InJenny'sKitchen.com is her website. Now, Jennifer, I've known you since like 2010, and I have just seen I've seen you go from writing sort of what's on your mind to publishing a cookbook. Do you want to tell the folks a little bit about what you write about, and also if you have any insight into some of the pies, like why you love pie so much? Because I think your book is it's baked from scratch or from scratch.
The book is called In Jenny's Kitchen. It's actually called Homemade with Love: Simple Scratch Cooking from In Jenny's Kitchen, and for me, my tagline is food, family, life, because that's pretty much what I write about. I often say people come for the stories and they get the recipes as a bonus, and I love pie. As a matter of fact, I just made a brown butter apple pie the other night, which we finished the last of yesterday morning, and I wish I had some right now.
But do you have a picture? Could you post a picture maybe through our feed later on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I shared pictures of it on Instagram a couple of days ago as well, too. So, and I will say that my boyfriend tasted it and said it was the best pie crust he had ever had.
Whoa, whoa! Now that's those are some fighting words. I'm like, all of us are going to get our recipes out. I want to remind everyone who's watching at home, there are ways that you can chat live with us, like right now, like during the show. Like this isn't like you watch the show and maybe we'll get to your question or anything like that. You literally can be like, hey, I want to add something to that. I want to share a recipe. I want to share a picture. And here's how you do that. You can go to Twitter, and you can use our hashtag, which is called GetBaked. Your friends will love you because they'll think it's hilarious. They think it's a super cute hashtag. You can also do it on Instagram, GetBaked, because we're looking at that too. We're going to share some of our favorite Instagram pictures that people have posted over the course of the week. And then also on our Google Plus event page, if you're watching there as well, or on our YouTube channel, we do check in throughout the show. Sometimes we follow Twitter a little bit quicker, so if you're on YouTube and it's taking a little bit of time, we will get to those, we promise. And if for some reason we don't get through during the show, we'll actually go back later and we'll make sure that our panelists answer your questions. So if you have any questions about pie baking, this is for you. Now let me get to Jackie Gordon. Now Jackie Gordon is the singing chef. Or actually, would you consider yourself the singing chef? Like, is that your...
That's Jackie Gordon, singing chef. That's me. That would be me. There's not a lot of us out there. That's me.
But you're also the founder of Pie Potluck.
Pie Party Potluck Live.
What is that?
That is the most fantastic event you've ever come to, where all food bloggers and food professionals and, well, that's pretty much food professionals, food bloggers and food writers get together, and they all bring pies, eat pies, and then take pie home. So it's a lot of pies. It's the most pies I've ever seen myself. And I think when I first did it, I was like, oh my God, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever done. It's just a sea of pies, and you get to like gorge yourself on them. And that happens every year.
That's called really focusing on your niche.
Yes.
You know? It's like if there was ever that sounds like the greatest party ever. And we have our fourth panelist, which is Beth Howard. Now Beth Howard is a new friend that I think, Beth, did we find each other on Instagram?
No, I don't think so, but I found you on Twitter quite a while ago. I met somebody in LA who knew you early on.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Well, Beth is a cookbook author, and also your website is The World Needs More Pie.com. Not pies with an S, right? More pie. Now, can you tell us a little bit about you? Because you're probably the newest. Like, you and Kate are the newest friends that we have right now. Can you tell us a little bit about why pie? Why did you get into pie?
Well, because pie connects people. That's the main thing. It's not about politics. To me, it's not about competition. And it's not even about the recipe. It's about nostalgia, and it's about making people feel good, and it's about sharing. That's the main thing that I like to convey through pie. And for me, pie is really just a metaphor. And I wrote Ms. American Pie, my cookbook, and I always say that I was an accidental cookbook author because I don't even follow recipes myself. I make pies the way grandmothers made pie. They just throw everything in and don't measure. So that was tough writing that cookbook. I was like,
you're like,
what?
I put in? No, I'm sure Jennifer Perillo and Kate can probably relate to having to, when you're writing a cookbook, you have to change. Like, you can't just assume the other person understands or to know. Can you guys show us all your books again?
Pie School.
Okay, here we have. Hey, is it showing up?
Yes.
Here we go.
And this is my first one, A Commonplace Book of Pie.
I love that font.
I call it a collection of facts, both real and imagined, about pie.
I almost think, Beth, let's see yours.
Here's Ms. American Pie. And that's the American Gothic House in rural Iowa, where I lived for the last 4 years. So the pies were all made in that house. So the cookbook was all shot in the house, and it's stories about living in rural Iowa and the convergence of two American icons, pie and American Gothic.
Wow.
I love that. I almost feel like, Nichelle, what do you think? Should we start with Kate asking a couple of, like, because with her first book, trivia and things that maybe we wouldn't know. Kate, can you stump us? Can you tell us something that's, like, weird?
Yeah, and this comes from an event I did last night with a mathematician at the Bureau of Fearless Ideas in Seattle, which is this really cool literacy center for kids. And what I learned from my new mathematician friend was that if you cut a pie in half, and then you cut it in half again, and then you cut it in half again, assuming you're serving all of these pieces, right? Because people probably don't want to sit around while you cut pie and not giving it to them. Cut it in half again, cut it in half again. If you continue to cut those pieces in half, you will never run out of pie. It's a math thing.
You will never run out of pie.
No, the piece, you will always have just a little sliver left, cutting it in half. It's a theoretical math thing that we could probably snack in like the crumbs and the fruit that's left at the bottom of the plate at the end of the pie day.
I don't think when I'm looking at pie, like I do not like take my time. Nichelle, do you take your time, or do you start with this? Like, do you lie to yourself and you start with like a small piece and then like eventually take a little bit more and then just like take your fork and start going into the edges? Do you figure if you're not really taking a whole piece, are you just taking like a little bite? Nichelle, what about you?
I think it depends on the pie. My favorite, I think one of my favorite pies is either apple or pecan or sweet potato. Those are, I think, my top three. A sweet potato pie, I probably could eat at least half of it in one sitting with coffee during the holidays. Oh, so good.
I think I could eat a pecan pie whole. Like I've done that in the past as a child, and I think as an adult it would be a little bit of a stretch. And I know it's so sweet, but it's like and lemon meringue. I actually did anyone bring pie? Do you guys have any pie with you?
I have pie. I have little pie.
Gorgeous.
Oh, that was cute, a little one.
Jackie, what is that?
These are apple, cherry, ginger hand pies.
Oh, wow.
I wish I could smell it.
Smell like the internet.
It
smells good.
We need smell-o-vision. So, Kate, I guess my first question, I think people are scared to bake pies because of the crust. So I think everyone give us your best tips, starting with Kate with pie crust.
Right. I think that the easiest way to describe it is use the light touch and go by feel. I find that my students who are new to making pie crust and worried about it tend to transfer that anxiety to the dough by touching it too much, right? And that touching it too much overworks the dough, creates too much gluten, and causes the problems that we know in tough pie crust. Really cold fat. I mean, I'm probably going to see a bunch of nods from the pie bakers. I think we generally agree on cold fat. Would you say that's true, Beth? Cold fat?
Ice water. That's my thing.
Water, yeah. Absolutely. And the way that I end up making pies, I don't, like Beth, I don't usually measure the exact amount of ice water I need. I look in the bowl, see what's going on with the dough, and measure the perfect amount by not measuring at all. Just stop the minute the dough comes together.
Okay.
That's my experience. I just made pie dough this morning, so, and I find that having a light hand and also not being afraid of it. I think that people, like you said, you put your fear into it, and they get intimidated by it and think it's really precious. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like it's not precious. It's just get in there and just get it to hold together, and then leave it alone. Wrap it up and stick it in the fridge. Don't give it too much power. I think people put their power in the pie crust and they're like, ah.
I like to say it's like a cat. Like it wants attention, not affection.
Yes.
I like to walk around when I'm teaching classes. I walk around with a rolling pin and threaten people if they don't get their hands out of the dough. Because people like to overwork it, and I can always identify when someone's like a type A and they just want to work it and they think it's like bread dough, and it's not. You just have to just kind of think like you're fluffing it. You have to keep it super light touch, and it's fast. I think that's the other misconception. People think it takes a long time to make pie dough, and it's just really quick. You get your hands in and you get out and start rolling.
Is there any way to overcorrect when you overwork it? Can you correct it, or is it just done?
Here's my feeling on that. You can always add more water if it's too dry, and if it's too wet, if you added too much water, you can always just add a little extra flour, so you can compensate on that. But if you overwork it, it just gets so tough, and you'll be able to feel how tough it is. You won't even be able to roll it out. It literally just gets hard. So in that case, sometimes you have to throw it out and start over.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any solution for overworked pie crust. Usually I can respin anything, but I don't know what you can do with that overworked pie crust. Maybe you can use it for making
cement, right?
Huh?
You can make cement.
You can make cement.
Yeah.
I always like to try and find some way to use it. You could probably make it into roux if you wanted to if you were I don't want to lose this flour and dough and butter. But yeah, that's about it.
Cut it out into shapes. You could salvage it and eat it.
You could make
little grandma cookies. Ornaments. There you go.
Ornaments. That's a good idea. Ornaments is good. I want to put a shout out to our friends who are watching on Google Plus and on Twitter. I did tweet out about the meerkat debacle that we had, and we just couldn't get it to go. But I wanted to say Sunny Hernandez checked in and says, if you want to learn about pie baking and asking questions to some awesome bakers, join Get Baked, and then she linked to the show. So we appreciate you, Sunny. She's at For Your Pies Only on Twitter. So make sure you follow her.
I love that.
And her blog is great. She's always posting really nice photos, and she's in Syracuse, New York. She's a great pie baker.
Oh, I went to Syracuse. That's awesome.
I think she's come to Pie Party too. I think Sunny's come down to Pie Party. She's definitely been at Big Summer Potluck. That's where I know her from.
Oh, that's cool.
And she made pie yesterday for National Pie Day, PI, in a special shaped pan that's the shape of the pie symbol. So you should go check out her pictures. She should post them if she hasn't already.
Absolutely.
Sunny, are you listening?
Yeah, Sunny, make sure you use the hashtag because we'll follow that. She said, Kate, she said, I agree about not measuring the ice water. I never use the same amount as the recipe has asked for. And then also Kitchen Marge on Twitter also checked in. This is hysterical. The Get Baked chat reads differently depending on whether you live in Colorado, Washington, D.C., etc. Very true. That's why we did it. The irony. Let's see, Jennifer Perla also posted. Thank you, Jennifer. You're in the show and posting on Twitter, so that's cool. Linda Matarasa, who is at Integrity Films, posted Pie Day. So I made these let's look at her hand pies. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me do a screen share. See, that's the beauty of this platform is we get to do screen share. So can you guys see that? How cool those are? She actually has. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is on Instagram. Linda Matarasa. She said the Pie Day. So it's Pie Day. So I made these hand pies, apple pie Pop-Tarts, used green glaze for tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day. So it was. I think because the two that are so close to each other, I think it's cool that she kind of combined them. And then I also wanted to, let's see if we can go through here as well. Pie Robot also retweeted the show. Thank you, Pie Robot, on Twitter. And then, let's see, this is us tweeting it out, but then we got a few more that were in earlier. Today's breakfast, yesterday's pie creation. Oh, did we just talk about, who was it that was talking about pies for breakfast? Was it one of you guys?
Oh, I mentioned sweet potato pie for breakfast during the holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's really good.
This is Food Girl at Urban.
But I think Michelle said breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Right, Michelle? 3 times a day.
Over last night, and I served the apple pie for breakfast. It was. I think that Isabella's friend will be coming back again.
What about speaking of dinner? What about savory pies? What are your guys' favorite savory pies?
I'm making chicken pot pie after this.
Oh,
Classic.
Nice.
Oh, look at this. Oh, this is somebody. This is someone who didn't realize he was in our hashtag, but I thought it was kind of ironic. You're at Baked and Wired, which I want to know what that is.
That's a place in D.C.
Oh,
yeah, that's a cupcake place.
It's a bakery. Yeah.
Bakery.
When you'd rather. Oh, I'm sorry. When you'd rather start eating than taking a picture of your cupcake. That is so true. That is so true. And then we're going to be following the folks. So if anyone posts after that, there's 3 new results. Sunny says, thanks so much. Oh, the Moon Muse, who's in Alaska, who's one of our members on Bakespace.com, one of our favorite members. She's the Moon Muse on Twitter. Baked the overworked bits. Oh, here. This is the overworked bits that we were just talking about. And used.
I'm trying to see. What is it?
So basically it's a pie, but the overused bits that she had, she used them for dog bones.
Brilliant. You could give them to chickens, too.
Oh.
I've had friends do that.
Well, that's wow. And Patty Curran, or Kern, Kuhn, which is on Twitter at RedPack, she said, it took me long to find the right pie crust. Do you guys agree?
I don't agree. I think pie crust is the most basic thing in the world. It's flour, fat, and water. It's simple. I don't add any extra ingredients in mine. Some people put vodka and eggs and cream and sugar, and the lists are long. But, well, they use vodka instead of water or mixed with water to The idea is that it will make your crust more flaky and less hard. And I'm like, vodka is for martinis. Don't waste it on your pie dough. It's supposed to evaporate out. So I'm not a fan of that concept.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is there's too many recipes out there. Like if you just look, you look for the least amount of ingredients or something. Here's Sunny Hernandez. This is the recipe that you got, or the picture that she was talking about. This is the St. Patty's Day. It's Guinness chocolate silk pie with Bailey's whipped cream and Jameson caramel. Holy cow!
I'm gonna go to her house.
She's like my new best friend. I just want to live in this kitchen. And then
she's always posting yummy looking pies. I get her newsletter. I'm like, she makes more pie than I do, I think.
I think I want that recipe. I would love that in like miniature pie cupcakes, like small versions of that, so that I could eat like 3 of them and no one would know I ate half the thing. All right, so we'll go through a couple more of these, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in and chatting live with us. If you guys have any questions, of course, just ask them on Twitter. You can Get Baked, and we will answer them. What do you guys think is the most like pie flavor, like the best pie flavor that you have ever had? Are you like a classic lemon meringue, or do you like something a little bit fancier? What's your favorite pie?
I'm a strawberry pie girl. I have to say, I love the summer season and berry pies, but there is something incredible about a strawberry pie. As a matter of fact, I try to eat very locally and very seasonally, but we have a lot of strawberries coming in from Florida and from California. And I just was at the supermarket. They were two for $4, and I have some strawberries in the fridge, and they are totally going to become pie in the next couple of days.
My favorite's peach. Peach pie. Really, but it has to be with really good peaches. Can't be with crappy peaches. It has to be like amazing peaches, and then warm with vanilla ice cream is my favorite pie ever.
Oh wow!
You guys mentioned strawberries and peaches. How can somebody at home tell if they're good strawberries or peaches for the pie?
Because when I think to taste them, I think, and I think Jackie brings up an interesting point because. She says excellent peaches. I tend to eat very locally and seasonally, and, it feels a little wrong to make a strawberry pie in March because they're not in season. And you can taste the difference. You bite into it, it's a little more tart. And in that case, just adjust your sugar. A strawberry that you're going to get in July probably won't need as much sugar, and it's filling. And I think that's the same of any fruit. It's the same thing, when you're a chef. You want to taste your ingredients before you work with them. Taste your fruit. If it tastes super sweet, cut back on your sugar. If it tastes a little tart, add a little more sugar.
What I find with peaches is that they smell really good. When they are good, they smell good, so they kind of call you, and they're like, hey, come here and eat me. And if they don't smell, then they usually don't have a lot of flavor. I don't think you can make up with sugar if a peach isn't good, because then it just makes it more sweet, not good. But it has to have a really good flavor, and you can find that out by biting into it or smelling it, and not mealy. Mealy's no good.
Ugh. I hate mealy.
Mealy sucks. So disappointing, isn't it, when you get a bad piece? I like apple myself. That's my favorite because I never get tired of it. So when I get asked, it's like I always love apple. Can't go wrong with that. Plus, you can get apples year-round, which is helpful.
Apples are great as a base. They're great because you can always count on them. They're like, that's right, exactly. You can always get apples, so you can always make apple pie.
What are the best apples for pie? Because I get really confused because I'm so at Gelson's they have this apple that's amazing called Envy, but I don't think it exists anywhere else because I have never found it at any other grocery store. But
there's hundreds of varieties of apples, but you want tart ones for a pie. You don't want them too juicy. And I always say the best apples are the ones that grow on your tree in the backyard. So if you can get homegrown fruit, that would be my favorite thing, no matter what they are. But just for consistency, I use Granny Smith. They're nice and tart. They're firm. They're not too overly juicy. And they make a great pie. But I also like mixing apples. That's something that is done quite often. And yeah, those are a couple of tips anyway. Bottom line is it doesn't matter. You can put anything in a pie crust. You can mix apples with other fruit too. It just just use what you have available.
Heirloom apples tend to be really good because older varieties were grown to be sauced, baked, preserved. That means that they bake up a lot better than apples you'd eat out of hand, like a Honeycrisp or a Pink Lady, which of course you can make in a pie if you want to, but I find that when I do that, I get that the apples tend to taste like they're not quite baked all the way through, or they've been mushed. And the problem is the apple, not the oven, not the baker. On West Coast, Gravenstein apples are the best pie apples. I wait for them. They are a very early season apple that comes in at the beginning of September, late August, and I wait for them all year.
What about chess pie?
But you're lucky because you live in the Pacific Northwest. You're like in the
all the apples.
All of them. You guys have everything up there. That's a pie maker's paradise, the Pacific Northwest.
All the fruits. I have a question for Jennifer about strawberry pie, if I may. I have actually been anti-strawberry pie because I find that the strawberries I've used to bake just get real cloying. So I'm wondering what your recipe is. I would love to hear how you make a great strawberry pie.
No, now that's a good question. I don't remember if my strawberry pie recipe is one that I've actually blogged or shared. We were all talking about your favorite ways to make pies and with dealing with recipe testing. For me, my favorite thing, especially when I'm in pie baking season in the summer, is I just bake everything on instinct. So when I'm thinking about my fruit fillings are pretty much the same basics. I have the fruit, I have sugar, which is based on how much or how little I need, the sweetness of it. I always put an acid in my fruit filling, usually lemon juice, and then more flour than you really feel comfortable using. And that took a long time for me to get used to because I don't like when you cut into your pie and it falls apart. To me, pie needs to have structure. You should be able to cut it, and it should be almost statuesque. So I found with strawberries in particular, because of how high that water content is, I put probably for a regular 9-inch pie, I'm probably going to put almost a 1/4 cup of flour. As crazy as that sounds, when I hold back, and it doesn't have a gummy flavor. You really don't taste the flour at all, but in terms of the flavor and the sweetness, I also have a sweet tooth, and I think that's something, even when we're talking about apples for apple pie, I found it interesting that everyone veered towards a tart apple. I love ginger gold when they're in season, but one of my go-to apples for apple pie is always Golden Delicious. But I have a very obsessive sweet tooth. So, and I also don't want to have a huge slice of pie. I just need a little tiny piece to satisfy my craving. So I could see if sweet pies, super sweet flavors aren't your tendency, I could see not liking strawberry pie, but maybe mixing it with another fruit so that you get that strawberry flavor, but it's not in your face, cloyingly sweet.
I was going to say my favorite pie is rhubarb, so I guess we understand our taste. We're on the opposite side of the sweet spectrum.
There you go. And a classic pairing for strawberries, too.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had rhubarb.
Strawberry rhubarb pie? That's the best.
No. Every time I think of strawberry, I always think of that glaze of strawberry that you find at the...
No. It's when it's white inside, the strawberry.
Yuck.
I like to use tapioca to thicken the fruit pies as opposed to flour. I like the texture of using tapioca starch as opposed to flour. I've never actually thickened one with flour, I don't think.
Well, especially if you're making a peach pie, that really needs tapioca. That's too juicy. If you use flour, if you use the amount of flour you would actually need to thicken a peach pie, you're going to end up with a gross, gummy mess. So, yeah, you're right. Tapioca.
I have to say, I don't really agree with that. But I've used tapioca. I've used tapioca, flour, pearls, and, the regular all-purpose flour really works well for me. And but yeah, I think maybe depending on the fruit might depend on what kind of starch you want to use to thicken it also. Because I have found for blueberry pie, tapioca starch works much better than flour does. So it's not an exact science. And I think with pie baking, it's like everything. Practice makes perfect, and what better thing to keep practicing than baking pie? It's a win-win for everyone.
That is very true. And since we're talking about everyone, I want to make sure I bring some of our folks who are watching at home in, because they started telling us what their favorite pies are too. So Red Pack, and I tried to make the screen a little bit bigger so you guys can see it this time. Patty said chicken pie is a favorite of my family. So that's a savory pie, that sounds delicious. And then Moon Muse said pies are good for any meal or any holiday. Here are some of my Halloween meat pies that she made. These look really interesting. Oh, look, she has like little teeth everywhere. It's almost like they're coming apart. That's really cool. So the Moon Muse on Twitter, you definitely want to follow her. And then here's the other one from Sunny, which is for your pies only on Twitter, which is this looks like she. This is kind of interesting. She has like the little what are these called? The lucky
Shamrocks.
Yeah, the shamrocks. It's been a while since I've been in school when I have made my own shamrocks.
For St. Patrick's Day. She's an Irish country.
Exactly. Oh, look, we have 10 new ones too. So let me go through a couple of these since
I'm tweeting as well. So.
Oh, okay, cool. And then Cupcakes Take the Cake, Nichelle. You said pie crust, flour, fat, and water. I like to keep it to the basics. Keep it to the basics. Sunny said my favorite pie, savory pie, is apple, pork sausage, and sage. Huge pork pie fan. It seems like a lot of folks are really into the savory pies. Is this a new thing, or is this like this is tradition and I'm just such a sweet person that I just didn't even pay attention?
I lived in Australia for 10 years, so meat pies are very, very popular there.
Oh.
Savory pies are very popular there, so I'm all about the savory pies myself.
Pie started as a savory pie back in ancient times, and they used pie crust as sort of a Tupperware to transport and preserve meat, and then it sort of morphed into pie eventually. And the first recorded pie recipe is in Greece, and it's like some spinach goat cheese pie. So yeah, it all started off with savory.
Oh,
Like, mincemeat is a savory pie, right?
Yeah, it's got raisins and spices in it, but it's got some bits of meat in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Fat.
it's in the UK, and then it's sweet.
what'd you say, Kate?
Oh, unless it's in the UK, and then it's sweet. It's a sweet pie.
Yeah, in Australia it's sweet too. It is sweet, but it does often have like lard and then beef suet in the crust and in the pie. But it is a sweet pie. But short crust pie crust.
Yeah. The Moon Muse.
Suet being the key ingredient. God, wow.
You know, the Moon Muse said on Twitter she used crab apples as shrunken heads, and the meat pies were jam and gummy body parts. That's fun. That's pretty cool. And then also pies are good for any meal. I think this is a repeat. Here's a good one from Moon Muse as well. Look at how adorable those are. I saw some pies last night at Whole Foods that were they were small little pies, but they were like $5 each, and I was like $10 for a whole pie, a big pie, or like $4 for a little piece, and I'm like, even though they're cute, I couldn't see myself doing it. It says I miss a lot of good fruit pies up here because she's in Alaska, because when they go to the store, it's like they have to make a plan for it. They're so far out. Which, by the way, if you guys have not gone to Alaska in your lifetime, it is probably, I've been to almost every state, and it is the most beautiful state I've ever been to. I mean, better than Colorado, better than Montana, like just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Let's see, I miss a lot of good fruit pies up here, like peach and strawberry, but I do have lots of blueberries. That's cool. And then also, Sunny said, late summer peaches are my favorite. Question for strawberry pies from Sunny. What is the best thickener to use? Now, we just talked about that, right?
We did.
Flour, tapioca starch.
Tapioca starch. Okay. Pie Daddy. Oh, this is a new folk. Hey, welcome, Pie Daddy. The Pie Pimp is his. I mean, I'm assuming it's a guy because Pie Daddy, unless you're really clever. The Pie Pimp on Twitter, which is the greatest name ever, said, my mango rhubarb for Pie Day. That's very cool. Oh, mango rhubarb.
I have referred to myself as the pimp of pie as well, so it can be a woman, can be a pimp.
Oh. And then here also, quince with apple is the bomb.
Agreed.
Really?
Oh, I had quince in my CSA once, and I didn't know what to do with it now.
It doesn't.
Ideas.
It's one of those fruits that can be difficult because we've kind of gotten accustomed to being able to just buy a fruit and put it in our faces. And if you do that with a quince, it'll just kind of taste like it's getting revenge on you. Right? You've got to cook it. And actually,
yeah, I remember roasting it and just putting some sugar on top.
Makes a nice jam. That's the best I can say for quince.
Mm.
And I've got some really great Dr. Hauschka face cream that costs $50 a tube that's made from quince. So there's a use for it.
You know, we have a question from Instagram. Now, Jennifer, you said that you saw something on Instagram. So do you want to tell the folks what you saw?
Yes, I posted if anyone had a question, and one of my followers there said, how do you prevent that huge cavern that forms between your apple pie filling and your crust top? And I'm sure as beginning bakers, we all had that happen. And for me, I just learned you have to pack in more apples than you think. You know, sometimes if you're working off of a recipe and you see this mound of apples and you start to get nervous as a beginning baker, so you probably hold a few back. But the truth is, you have to just allow. Someone said, how do you get the apples to stop from collapsing? And really, you can't, because that's what happens. Your fruit breaks down in your filling. So you just have to pack in more filling than you think, so that as it collapses, you don't have that huge space between your filling and your pie crust.
That's a good tip.
That's like a win-win.
But I have to ask, like, when I pile up the apples high, then what happens is the crust stays high and the filling still ends up baking down. So the more apples you pack in there, the higher your dome is, and then the greater risk you have of having that gap. So I still have that problem, so I don't even know how to remedy that, except that one of my little tricks is that if I see too much airspace, I will literally, and I don't know if I should even say this out loud and tell people to try this at home, but I'll take both of my hands and just press the whole top of the pie down, literally just to push the air out, and my crust is so flaky it doesn't really matter. It plops down onto the pie. Like I said, I don't really recommend it, but it does. It does.
Another solution, because what you're doing is you're trying to release that steam that's being built up. So you could even just take a paring knife, and as it's baking, before the crust really sets up, maybe just put a couple of more pierces. I think the steam vents are important too. I think a lot of people don't put the amount of steam vents that they need, or put a big enough hole in the center, because that's what happens. You have all that steam that's building up. But I still have a little bit.
That's definitely not my problem. That's not my problem. I use my logo is Pitchfork for the Pitchfork Pie Stand. So I have a huge slice and Pitchfork logo on the top of my pie. So plenty of venting. So
that's awesome.
What's worked for me is slicing the apples extremely thin on a food processor, and then actually placing them into the bottom crust by hand so that they're flat, and then layering them up so there's less air holes in between all the different pieces of apples.
I do think very thinly sliced apples. I found that's worked over time.
I think you have to be careful of that too, though, because the thin slice can bake, get overbaked, so that you don't want it to turn mushy like applesauce. So that's the one thing that I'm careful about. Like, there is sort of a fine line between too thin and too thick.
It requires a real pie baking apple to work. I think that's true, Beth.
I mean, I have a question, because I do it differently. Sometimes I actually use raw apples, and sometimes I actually cook everything off ahead of time and then put it in the pie cold, and then bake the pie, and then the pie crust behaves better because there is no shrinkage, because the filling is it's already done. It's really just baking the thing together, and there isn't a problem because there's enough holes in the top, and there isn't shrinkage. So it really depends on, because some people use some people use canned pie filling, but some people make a pie filling and it's already cooked. Or you can do the other way, which is to use fresh apples, which can be a little bit, which sounds like what you guys do more often. I have certain pies that are that way. What do you guys do?
I do have Janice Mansfield on Google Plus has a suggestion. Which, by the way, every time I hear you say shrinkage, whatever, I just gotta laugh. It's just hysterical. I don't know why.
Seinfeld.
Am I the only one?
Absolutely.
No, I thought Seinfeld too.
Okay, so Janice Mansfield on Google Plus said, one thing I do, and I don't even know what this is, so we got to figure out what this is, but I have a feeling this is like dipped in sugar. One thing I do is avoid the apple pie. To avoid the apple pie cavern is to macerate. Is that a word?
Macerate.
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 Macerate. It's the
Soak in sugar overnight, probably, right?
Yes, yes. Apples and sugar for about 60 minutes. And then that helps break them down a bit beforehand. So that's, I would say not only are the panelists on Get Baked amazing, but the people who tune in I think are pretty darn cool. I do want to show you Janice's, one of her recipes here though. Let me see if I can get this to come up on the screen. Because this looks delicious. Let me see if I can make it bigger. I don't know if you guys see that.
Oh.
That looks super. I don't know what that is, Janice. If you
it looks like a mix of berries, strawberries and cherries, doesn't it?
Like blackberries, maybe.
Janice, what is it? Tell us.
It's in my mouth now. And then Patricia Odell Kuhn wanted to know, has it started? So I think she's tuning in as well. Jennifer Lance, Amelie Walker Young also tuned in as well. So thanks for the folks. And then here are some other, like 28 people who are also watching. I want to make sure everyone knows their name. Brooks Walker, hopefully you're watching. He's been around Google Plus for a really long time, which is really cool. Renee Lynch.
Leslie.
Oh, Leslie, awesome. Eric Deutsch, Samir Sam, hello. Monica Chase, who's from Alaska. Colleen Hill. A lot of folks that we're seeing. I think people are liking this show. They're digging it. So just so you guys know, this new format. Let me take my screen share off. See if I can do this. Hello, there I am. This new format is we are incorporating everything you guys do throughout the week. So next week when our show is gluten-free, if you have any recipes, pictures, thoughts, tips, whatever, you post them to the Get Baked hashtag, and we will share them on the show for next week. So, all right, I did want to show you guys some Instagram photos too. I did get a couple of submissions. I thought this was really cool. Miss Nerd Chef shared this. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh yeah,
it looks delicious. And let me see if I can tell you what it is. This, it's really bad. My eyesight is getting. I'm looking for my reading.
It's an apple pie.
It's a.
I can see it.
How about some warm apple pie inspired by American Pie? Oh, and it has like a little hole. There's your what is it? What were you guys talking about earlier? You were saying like you had to make
shrinkage.
Yeah, well, shrinkage, but also you had to make sure that your whatever the hole was that would.
Pie bend.
You guys make me laugh. Food Culturist also on Instagram says hi, and then here's Miss Nerd Chef also posted Happy Pie Day. Here's a delicious pumpkin pie inspired by World of Warcraft, which I thought that was very cool as well.
That looks good.
Which I have never seen.
I just want to ask the panelists, can you actually tell the difference between a sweet potato and a pumpkin pie just by looking? Because I feel like I can, but I know some people cannot. Just by looking at the top of it, because I think the sweet potato has a deeper color than the pumpkin.
It depends on what kind of pumpkin you use to make the pumpkin pie.
The texture.
Wait, Nichelle, you're the one that eats it all the time, right? I think the sweet potato seems to have a thicker texture, and the pumpkin's a little bit finer. Does that sound true to you?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just talking about just looking at it at the top. Like even if you were like at a bakery and you just saw them next to each other, I think the sweet potato has a darker color to it, almost like a caramel is. Maybe I was thinking that because it's a sweeter, it gets sweeter, so it caramelizes during the cooking. I think it just has a richer color to it. That's my opinion.
One of my least favorite pies is pumpkin pie because I hate canned pumpkin, and I think that if you use canned pumpkin in a pumpkin pie, I'm not. It's just that I'm not a fan. I usually, having lived in Australia again, they have amazing pumpkins, so I would roast the pumpkins for the pumpkin pie, and that brings up the sugar level and makes it more similar to sweet potato pie. But I think if you use a canned pumpkin and a sweet potato, you can definitely see the difference in the color because that canned pumpkin is much lighter.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And I actually asked people on our Twitter feed on Cupcakes Take the Cake if cheesecake was pie or cake. And it was pretty much split 50-50. And I don't know, what do you guys think? What is cheesecake?
I have a great answer for that one. You know the site Jezebel?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, they did a March Madness contest, pie versus cake. And it went on, and people were so opinionated. It was like, it got kind of rough out there. And then the final winner, it was the craziest thing. It was a cheesecake. So it was, and then no one could even agree on whether that was pie or cake. And I think it had actually gone into the pie category. So it was ended in utter confusion and outrage. So that, I don't know, I just thought that was a funny story because I don't think anybody really knows. It's, you know, the whole adage is a pie is something in a crust. Well, cheesecake is more or less with a crust, so I don't know. It's all good. Pie and cake, all good.
I think
You know,
someone
Michelle, you threw in a question about chess pie, and I think we've made this chat about fruit-based pies, or I guess vegetable if we're talking about pumpkin or sweet potato. But I think chess pie is a great beginner pie because it takes a lot of the risk away from having the right fruit filling and having the right balance. You're not dealing with a double crust. You're just dealing with the crust that goes into the bottom layer. And chess pie comes together in about 10 minutes. It is my absolute favorite. I do a regular buttermilk, I do chocolate, and then I got crazy during Christmas and I did a gingerbread chess pie also.
Oh, wow.
I do not know what chess pie is. I will be the first to admit. I'm always the first to admit on any of our shows. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I need you to step back like 30 steps and introduce me to what that is. 'Cause that sounds very good.
When I think about like
You would know what chess pie is. It's a southern pie, but I'll let
southern pie.
Jennifer sounds like she's the one that's passionate about the chess
I
pie.
actually, the traditional buttermilk one isn't my favorite, so I will let someone else speak to that if they are. I love chocolate chess pie, so chess pie, when you think about the consistency from the chocolate chess pie, imagine that consistency of pecan pie without the pecans. It's that very gooey, fudgy, textured center. It comes together really quickly because it just has eggs, copious amounts of sugar. Again, you need to have a sweet tooth, I think, to like a chocolate chess pie. And then it has a little bit of cornmeal in it. And what happens is the cornmeal rises to the top layer of your pie and creates this nice crunchy crust. And when you dig your fork into it, then you've got that fudgy center in the texture. And it's, again, it's very much, there's this magic cake recipe that's been all over the internet, and a lot of people have done variations on it, and I think that the chess pie is a really good base to get creative. You know, I put gingerbread seasonings in it during the holidays, but you can really mix it up. You can add the cocoa like I did for chocolate chess pie, but it's just really easy, and it comes together so quickly. So I think it's a good entry-level pie because you're not worrying so much about fruit fillings. You're not worried about doing a fancy pie crust on the top. And then pie crust is, you know, the top layer for your pie crust is a whole other conversation. You know, do you have to do a double crust, or you can even just do a crumb topping. A crumb topping takes a lot of that pressure off of wanting it to look perfect, and it also removes the problem about apples collapsing and having that gap between your filling and your top crust.
And who doesn't?
Yes.
I mean, I make a heavenly pie, which has a meringue crust, and then it's just whipped cream on top of like a Bavarian cream center, and it's awesome. Especially because I cook when I have people over, I make really big dinners, and so when you have a really light meringue pie dessert, or even a crumb crust, which is another easier, I guess, easier-ish pie crust, depending on your fear level of it falling apart when you cut it. So there's lots of other options besides making a regular crust too.
Yes, a lot of cookie crust, graham cracker crust, Oreo cookie crust. Yeah, I think a lot of people, now that it's Girl Scout cookie time, they're using some of their Girl Scout cookies, making shortbread cookie crust. So I guess, I don't know, I guess I am, because I am from the South, I've had more homemade non-fruit pies, meaning chess pie, egg custard pie, derby pie, pecan pie. I feel like I've had those more often. I love the fruit pies, but like having the homemade pies, I've had more of those. And I think that's because, you know, the whole worry about getting the right fruit and, you know, all of that stuff. But I like all pies, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm spoiled because I'm in California. So we have, like sometimes I'm like, is this in season? I do want to show, there's a few more things that are on Twitter too, and I want to let everyone know we have about 15 minutes left to our show. So we should probably transition into some tips for some home cooks of what, like mistakes that are common that most people make, or mistakes that maybe everyone is making but no one realizes they're still a mistake. But before we get into that, I want to, Debbie Griffel on D Griffel on Twitter 18 minutes ago posted, I attended Beth Howard's demo and now make great pies. This is a blueberry pie. That is fantastic. I think attending a class is always a good idea. And then Jennifer Perillo also talked about Golden Delicious as well. Thank you, Jennifer, for posting. You're in the show and posting. I think that's always impressive. Sunny Hernandez also said, this is my first time trying Trader Joe's cookie butter, and I threw it in a pie.
Ooh.
Hello, ladies.
I saw that, and I don't know what cookie butter is, but I'm going to go and try and make it myself now.
Ooh.
It's the hot thing, the cookie butter, the Biscoff butter, and the
Biscoff, yeah, the cookie butter. It's a Dutch.
Okay. I was imagining a butter that had chocolate or like cookie crumbs in it, and I thought, that's great. Spread it on toast in the morning.
Yeah,
But it just goes to show you can put anything in a pie crust.
It's like peanut butter with cookies instead of peanuts. Yeah, it's peanut butter, cookie butter. I like making the pie crusts with the pies with different layers, so I could see like the cookie butter over a ganache, maybe the whipped cream on top, maybe some fruit in between. I'm missing my head.
That's like a pie trifle.
I like my thing is the black bottom banana cream pie. That's what my pimp pie. So that's where my head goes. I'm always like layers and contrasting flavors. I like that.
Wow.
Jackie, Nichelle and I will be in New York May 21st for Tech Munch. Will you make us a pie?
I can make black bottom banana cream pie?
Yes.
Sure.
We're going to eat the whole pie in one sitting. Sunny Hernandez, also the pie addict. I love this when our people who are watching are telling their friends, like, hey, come check it out. If you're around, you should check out Get Baked and show off your delicious pies. That's very cool. Now this is beautiful. The Moon Muse. I'm gonna show you the picture. I love this adding a flower. I think that's very cool, and I love the topping. If cheesecake is a pie, then here is an individual fireweed-infused cheesecake that I made a few years ago. Now, I think we need more description on what that really means, fireweed-infused. So if you can tweet us and tell us what that exactly means, because that looks delicious. And then here, Pie Daddy has a question. The Pie Pimp on Twitter for Jennifer Perillo. Is shoe fly pie considered chess pie?
So I've always been curious about shoe fly pie. I've never made it myself. I've looked at plenty of recipes, so I could see why he might think they're similar, but shoe fly is its own kind of pie.
I have a recipe for it in my cookbook, and it's made with molasses, and it's got lots of crumbs in it, and it's kind of an acquired taste. If you're from Pennsylvania, then you grow up with it, so you probably love it. But a lot of people don't know what it is.
Well, I think molasses
it's not hard to make.
Also.
I visited it in Lancaster last year, and they made lots of it. So I was seeing it everywhere, but I'm not a fan of molasses, so I was like, oh, I don't think so.
You know, Jackie, Lancaster in California is very different than Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's not the same. So when I think of that, I'm like, Lancaster, what?
Pennsylvania, the Amish country where they love to make pie.
Well, let's talk about some practical tips, guys. What do you guys got to share? What are like 3 tips that you guys can make sure that home cooks take away from this live chat? And also remember, if you have questions and you've watched this and the show is over and you still have questions, use the GetBaked hashtag. Also, if you go to our blog post, you'll see everyone's Twitter handle. And also, if you follow the conversation, you'll see everyone's Twitter handle as well. And you can ask them questions directly, too. But what 3 tips do you guys got? Do you want to start, Jennifer, then Kate, then Beth? And then Nichelle, obviously, if you have some tips, too. But I have like, just invite me to your house. That's all my pie-making tips I have.
I think the biggest tip, and I think this, although we've had a little bit of disagreement in some of our pie making techniques, cold butter or whatever the fat is of choice, whether you're going to use coconut oil, shortening, or butter, it has to be really cold in order to work with it, because if you start with soft butter, your dough is just going to be too delicate, and you'll be crying. The other thing is when you're rolling out your pie crust, I have a foolproof pie crust recipe in my cookbook, Homemade with Love, which actually does contain eggs and it does contain vinegar in it, but it truly is foolproof because you can be pretty sturdy with it. I'm not gentle with my pie crust. I'm fast and I'm furious so that I can actually get it rolled out while it still takes its shape. The vinegar helps hold it. But definitely don't get too fussy with it. Just roll your crust out. Don't roll it back and forth. Roll in one direction and try to rotate your pie crust every couple of rolls so that it doesn't stick to your surface. And then my third one was one that I already talked about, which was, remembering that pie is more than just apple pie. You have savory pies, like Jackie said she's doing, the chicken pot pie. You have your chess pies. You have pumpkin pies. You have sweet potato pies. So just think outside of the box. Try to maybe, if you're around the farmer's market, you see a fun fruit that's in season. If you're not sure how to work the filling, you can Google it and I'm sure find a recipe. But maybe use pie as a way to step out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. A question that I often get, and I've gotten all over the States, has been, how do you prevent your bottom crust from getting soggy? And my best guess for how to solve this, I've never had this problem, so that's why I'm saying it's a guess, but I'm pretty sure that this is true, is that if you roll out your dough, put it in the plate, let it sit on the countertop and let it get warm, then maybe put some filling on and let it sit on the countertop while you roll out your top crust, that's going to result in a soggy bottom crust, right? The lesson here is, do not ever let your dough get warm once you've gotten it cold. So if at any point it starts to get warm, like a lot of people have warm hands, just put it in the fridge for 5 minutes. Chill out, let it chill out, you chill out too. That will always prevent soggy bottom crusts. Another tip on thickening, which is kind of fun, is if you happen to be out of your favorite thickener or just want to add a special flavor to your fruit pies, take a high pectin apple like a Granny Smith, grate it, and put that into your filling as a thickener. Maybe add a couple extra like 2 tablespoons of flour just to make sure everything holds up. But it's a really cool way to thicken up your pie. And finally, kind of piggybacking on Jennifer's idea of just thinking outside of the pie box, is there are more flours than just all-purpose flour that you can make really excellent pie doughs with. I've recently been experimenting with really, really freshly ground whole wheat flour, and I've been blown away by how I've been able to get flakes, and that really, really freshly ground whole wheat flour that you can get, for example, at Great Harvest Bread is across the nation, a place where you can get this fresh, adds a flavor that just you completely miss if you're grabbing that bag of whole wheat from off the shelf that's been sitting there for a month. So brand it fresh if you can.
Ready for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are good. Great.
All right, so then I won't repeat what anyone else has said, but I would say when you're rolling out your dough, use plenty of flour. A lot of cookbooks will tell you don't use too much flour, it'll make your dough tough, and I'd say what makes your dough tough is overhandling it when you're mixing it, and when I mix dough, I do use my hands, so that's why I really make a point to keep a light touch. So use enough flour when you're on your rolling space so that you don't get that typical frustration of your rolling pin sticking to your dough or your dough sticks to the counter. I also recommend a tool that it's like a small rectangle piece of metal, and it's a bench scraper or pastry scraper or a dough cutter. There's a couple of different names for it, but that's a great tool. It's $5 at Bed Bath & Beyond. And the other thing is, I always say, pay attention to what's happening in front of you. People ask, oh, is my dough too dry? Is it too wet? You really have to go by feel. And so, just be aware. And the last thing I would say, too, is watch the oven. Like that's where a lot of people they put it in the oven and then they walk away, or they're afraid their crust edges are going to burn. Their pies burn often, and I say, well, you have to really adjust the oven temperature. So, rather than go by the numbers, I guess my biggest tip would be don't follow the numbers. You might need more flour or more water for your recipe depending on where you live. Your oven might need to be hotter or cooler depending on your oven. So there's variables in every single part of the process, and so I just would say pay attention and adjust accordingly. And last but not least, just have fun. It's not about perfection, and just face your fears and just go for it. And people don't care if your pie isn't perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be homemade and made with love and shared. So those are my words of wisdom.
You bring up a good point about oven temperature, because I think that people don't realize, they assume that the oven temperature on their oven is correct. I was burning everything. I mean, I would put a pizza in for 10 minutes, I would burn it. I would put such and such in for 10 minutes, I would burn it. Until I finally got a thermostat, and then I put it inside my oven and realized that my oven is like off by like 30 or 40 degrees, which is like you could buy basically your oven is off or on. And after I did that, now when I make things, I adjust it. Because I didn't fix the oven, because we were renting, so we're like, well, we're not going to ask them for a new oven, which I probably should have like 10 years ago. But I just adjust it. I go 20 degrees hotter, 10 degrees, whatever it is that I have to go. I did want to make sure I get a few things from Twitter. We got some. I probably would say one of my favorite books, Hello Cupcake. The folks at Hello Cupcake just tweeted to us and said, my mom used to make banana pudding pie with vanilla wafer crust. Does anyone have a recipe for that?
You don't need a recipe for that.
You don't?
You can just roll out the vanilla wafers with butter, and that's your crust. And then you make banana pudding. It could be a vanilla pudding, and you add bananas to it. I don't know. That's my take. It doesn't matter. You can make all kinds of variations of that kind of a pie.
Yeah, I agree, Beth. I make banana pudding all the time, but I never thought about making it into a pie and just making the wafers into the crust. Then you have it. I think I'm gonna do that now. Good idea. And bananas are in season all the time. You find bananas all the time.
Now, you guys will laugh at this. This is a picture. They don't realize that they're in our stream, but it's kids getting high, and they post it on Twitter.
Well,
now,
they're parents.
They're either the dumbest kids.
You know what? And they're going to be hungry. They're going to be hungry for pie too, after that little party.
I know, like, holy cow, that's insane.
I know, edibles, that's a whole conversation that they could have.
Oh, I think I just thought of last night, we're going to do an episode, I think, of some of those things. So it may be kind of interesting, Nichelle, to, we'll try.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea, definitely, because actually baked edibles are big. Brownies, cupcakes, yeah, that's definitely a trend as more and more states legalize.
State where it's legal.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
There are experts who would love to talk to you.
Katie from if you guys are experts in edibles, let us know. Katie at My Rumbling Tum also posted, I love pie. Let's just go to her website. Let's just try this. Oh, look at this. These are all like different types of pies. Bombay sweet potato, spinach, and tomato phyllo pie.
Ooh.
All right. Well, I'm sold. Raisin and cookies, yum, delicious, and soup. So basically, you're going to get, your rumbling tummy is going to be totally satisfied if you go to Katie's website. And then Moon Muse said, fireweed is a plant up here. Remember I asked her, I'm like, what the heck is that? I warmed up heavy cream with fireweed blossoms, chilled, and then wrapped and added to cream cheese. Delicious.
Ooh, I bet you could do that with hibiscus.
That sounds very, very good. Oh, and then Jennifer, you said you did a video for pumpkin slab pie, so we will definitely check that out as well. And then shoe fly, you're also made with molasses. That's good. All right, and then also on Google Plus, I wanted to make sure Denise Romeo, or is it Romeo? Romeo. Denise produced our Tech Munch with Nichelle, produced our Tech Munch Atlanta event, which we're going to be going back this year again. And she said, we are ready for Pie Day with Strawberry Rhubarb Classic. I think this is from her mom. And I wanted to get to a couple
for a second because I've been told to butt in because I didn't give you any tips.
Oh yeah, no, I want to do that, but I want to go. I want to go through these real quick just so that I can get them.
Go ahead.
I can get them off our plate. I can get them off our plate. I think this is. Oh, and then before we go on to those, is rhubarb berry pie gluten-free? Okay.
Oh, that's what it was. The picture we saw earlier.
Well, that's what it was. It is rhubarb berry pie gluten-free buckwheat crust. Okay, that sounds delicious. All right, Jackie, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I didn't have much to add that was kind of normal, but for some unnormal tips for pies, I think it was Harold McGee. He actually does an interesting thing where he grates the butter. You freeze the butter and grate it to put the pie together, so you actually wind up with the right size of the butter from using the large round, using a box grater, and I thought that was cool. He also uses a sprayer to put the water in, so you can control it, and it spreads it more evenly if you're doing it for the first time. That can be easy, make it easier rather. And we didn't talk about galettes, which I think is an awesome way to make a pie, and it can be less intimidating than making a pie in a crust, which is to put out the whole pie crust on a sheet pan, and then just throw the filling in the middle, and then tuck the edges around it to make a pie. And I probably have a picture. I can share it later of some of the ones that I've made, which is a great way to make a pie, especially if you're intimidated. I think it's a lot easier to just throw it together at galette. So those are my 3 tips.
That sounds awesome. That sounds amazing. I do want to share with you guys a couple of recipes I found today. Were you going to say something, Kate?
I am. My time is up in this lovely room at the Seattle Public Library, so I've got a split. I have been so honored to be in the presence of all of you. Thanks for talking with me about pie.
You were fantastic. I hope, will you come on the show again?
Yes, please, have me.
Okay, we will do that. We will get you back. Maybe we'll do a savory pie.
Maybe. I gotta go. They're banging on the door.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
I do want to share a couple of recipes that I found today on our site that I thought were absolutely really adorable. This one is, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's see. Italian American Love Story. Now we did a contest recently where we asked people to share their favorite recipes based on the movie 100-Foot Journey. So the theme is like food that brings you home. And this was a submission by Deborah Biggs, and it says Italian American Love Story or chocolate fig nut pie with mascarpone cream. Now that sounds delicious. But here's her story. It says, no one said that it would be easy blending a traditional Italian family with a traditional American family much later in life. But 12 years ago, that is what my mom and her boyfriend successfully accomplished. I've completely embraced the many varied food traditions of the Italian side of the family that it has been brought into my life. In this recipe, I combine my mom's favorite American chocolate pecan pie with some flavorful Italian ingredients for the Italian-American infusion dessert that is sure to please not just our blended family, but anyone's. So I'm going to share that. I think this is the essence of what makes pies amazing, I think.
And that's a great callback to what Beth said. Pie connects us. You said that, right, Beth? Because I tweeted that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will definitely share that recipe in the feed as well with the Get Baked feed because I think it's so sweet. Our time is definitely up. We're like 12 minutes over, but we were having such a good time that, and also talking to our friends online and talking to you guys and hearing your questions and getting your insights back has been awesome. Next week we have a gluten-free show. We have a whole bunch of folks who are Christine Kidd, who was like a Bon Appetit food editor for 20 years, is going to be on the show. Shauna Ahern from The Gluten-Free Girl is going to be on. And we have like 2 other folks, which I'm going blank right now. But all I know is it's going to be an amazing show. So make sure you tune into that. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on Twitter. Follow us at BakeSpace. Now I want to make sure before we leave, everyone knows where to find everyone online. So, Jackie, do you want to start with you and tell folks where they can find you? And also, if you're working on anything that we should be on the lookout for to, like, direct people there, send people there?
Well, food bloggers should definitely get on my Tri-State Food Blogger mailing list, because, especially if you're in the Tri-State in Pennsylvania, because Pie Party Potluck Live is coming up in the spring. You can find me on Twitter at diva8ny. I'm also on Instagram at diva8ny, and my blog is jackiegordon.com. if you want to see more pictures of pies that I've made and get on my mailing list, that's where you'll find me.
Hey, when are you doing that pie potluck?
Pie potluck is the date is loosely the 2nd of March, of May rather. 2nd of May,
2nd
not
of May.
March.
I was going to say do it at the end of Tech Munch because we
I
have
know.
that whole space.
But it's all about the venue. It's all about finding the right venue for it. So we're working on it for
great
the 2nd.
venue.
It's not solid yet. It's not a solid number date, but that's the tentative.
Do they already bake the stuff before they arrive?
Oh, they totally do.
We could probably make that happen. All right. So Jennifer, what about you? Are you working on another cookbook, or where are you?
Well, where am I? Well, the newest thing I have that I launched last September was a quarterly recipe journal called Simple Scratch Cooking. So the spring issue will be coming out in the next few weeks. You can find me at injennyskitchen.com, and in terms of social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all of those places, I'm pretty easy to find, just Jennifer Perillo.
All right, you ready for me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hi, there I am. Hey, well, you can find me at theworldneedsmorepie.com, and that's where I post everything I'm doing. I have a pretty active on Facebook, so my pie page is The World Needs More Pie. Twitter, of course, is @WorldNeedsPie, because the whole The World Needs More Pie doesn't fit on the Twitter handle, but there you go. And because it was Pie Day yesterday, I'm going to be giving away one of my cookbooks. Actually, I'm giving away 3 copies. So if you go to my blog, which you can get to through my website, then I'll be running the contest there and giving away 3 copies of Ms. American Pie. And I'm also teaching pie classes in the Los Angeles area at the moment, available to travel, but I do really enjoy the teaching, and people respond to it really well, and it's a 4-hour class, and you too can face your fears and get over your terror of pie crust. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you guys, you're great. You're great. Now, Michelle, what are you working on?
Working on Tech Munch, New York. We're getting, people booked and everything, which will be May 21st at, is it Home Studios in
yes.
the Flatiron area?
Yeah, Home Studios is amazing. Last year it was such a good space, and we're contemplating renting out the top floor as well for like the lunchtime area so that people can kind of go somewhere and do some tastings and stuff like that. But we definitely have the same space that we had last year, and we're revamping our schedule and revamping. We have, I think, like 10 more speakers that were added in the last couple of days, and it's been really interesting. We're doing a lot of like TED Talk kind of format, so that'll be a little bit of an inspirational kind of talk, but also we're going to have some great things, like we have an Instagram, like best practices in Instagram, hashtags you should follow, things like that. Also an SEO guy I'm talking to tomorrow who I think is going to be amazing. So we should have a nice blend of practical tools with also inspiration. People remember what people remember how you made them feel, and I'm trying to get more into that, of basically realizing.
That's Maya Angelou. I think of that all the time now, ever since she passed.
I probably heard that on like Oprah's Sunday. I love that. I absolutely love Oprah's. What is it called? Sunday.
Super Soul.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the greatest thing ever. I'll forward through those, and I'll just be like, these are great. Like they'll just one will call to me out of like the 5 I TiVo, and then I'll delete the rest. But I absolutely love that session. If you guys are watching on Sunday today, at some point, Oprah does this like hours long of just these great talks with amazing speakers. But next week is our gluten-free show. Make sure follow the hashtag. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us or Bakespace TV on YouTube. Bakespace on Twitter. On Instagram, we also post as well, and that is Bakespace as well. And if you guys have any questions, you guys know where to find us. And thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And if you guys have recipes later, Jackie, Jennifer, Beth, and Kate, if you're watching this later, make sure you guys post some recipes. Bring us back to your blog. Show us some of the best stuff that you guys have produced, because we would love to. And when you get the pie, your pie class and your pie potluck, put those feeds. Use our hashtag like throughout the year. Like don't just not, use them now, but use them to let the folks know, because those are the folks who will be interested in what you guys are doing. Cool. All right, guys.
Yeah.
We will see you guys soon. Bye. See you later. Thanks for watching.